Welcome back, everyone, to Einstein's Eyes. I'm Carl Rosen, oculoplastics neuro-ophthalmology in Anchorage, Alaska. Einstein's Eyes, as you know, is your trusted source for all things ophthalmology and beyond. My partner, John Ditkoff. John?
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm John Ditkoff. I'm a general ophthalmologist specializing in cornea. Been in practice for about 30 years in northern New Jersey. Carl and I met each other when we trained at Albert Einstein together, hence Einstein Eyes. And we created this channel a few years ago. And now we're expanding. I think it's really interesting. We're getting into other industry and other interesting topics that you guys seem to want to hear about. So I'm excited to hear about these topics tonight.
Yeah, so we're going to have a fascinating discussion about innovation, healthcare consulting, and potentially the future of healthcare consulting with Manasi Shukla, who I met through HitLab. It's a digital technology subdivision at Columbia Business School through the Breakthrough Program and Stan Kaknowski. And Mansi's gonna tell us a little bit about herself, and then we're gonna just dive right into it.
All right. Well, thank you both for having me, and looking forward to our conversation.
Great. So Mansi, just give me an idea about your background and the inspiration behind your company, which we should discuss, Safrela, and tell us a little bit about that.
So my background, basically, I think growing up, the helping people and doing community service was the core of how I was raised. It was part of my family. I started volunteering at hospitals at a very young age, and I realized just the importance of technology and how technology can be used to help patients. And that was essentially my driving force. I was interested in engineering, and so I did my undergrad in computer engineering. That's when, back in the day, when neural networks was just, starting out, and it was trying to figure out how I can use engineering to essentially create products and to collaborate with physicians. And so I worked in this neural network lab, and then I worked for an ultrasound company, and just sort of that's how my career progressed. I found the program at Cornell. They have a master's in biomedical engineering, and I was just, it was exactly what I was looking for, the intersect between technology, engineering, and medicine. I got to work with this physician out in Chicago. My project was actually a fetal pacemaker, which was, extremely fascinating. And so I basically worked to build a fetal pacemaker to see if it was viable or not. And then I've worked for large companies like Medtronic in their cardiac division. I've worked for Intuitive Surgical, which is a surgical robotics company. And after years of working for large companies, I wanted to get into the startup space because the startup scene, especially with med devices, was really expanding. So I started working in the startup space. I loved wearing different hats and using all of my background and skills to help companies grow. And in that time, I realized that I really liked education, because patient education, educating the customer, whether it's a patient, a physician, is an extremely powerful tool, because that's how they understand how to use the product, how to maximize using the product. And so that's really where I have focused my career. And then after working in the startup space and really helping companies think about, okay, we're building this product, but how do we get our customer to use it? And also, you can have different customers. So how do we tailor our training to physicians or to fellows? And so thinking about all of these things is something that I really enjoy. And a few years ago, I decided, well, instead of just helping one company, I'd like to help many companies. And so that's why I started Safrela Consulting. So now I get to work with different companies in different fields. So whether it's a medical device product, software, whether it's business to business, so B2B, it's a variety of products. And there's also different users. as well. And so I like that challenge, and I like really helping companies think through how they're going to get, the users on board. And so that's what I do.
That's great. That's great. The three of us have a relationship with Cornell. John and I mentioned when we were talking before that we both went during high school, and you got your master's there. So that was a long time ago, but still memories, and they come crawling back. But Manasi, so let me ask you, what were the initial challenges that you faced when starting Safrela? And how'd you overcome those initial challenges?
So the initial challenges, the first challenge is, how do you form an LLC? And as a consultant, it's like, do you just go out and just start taking contracts, or do you form an LLC? And so I did a lot of research. I spoke to other consultants to determine what would be the best for me. And I decided to form LLC. Spoke to, again, many people, went through the process. It's actually pretty straightforward, at least in California. So that's what I did. And then the second was really thinking about what is as a consultant, like, what is my offering and what's my niche? And so I really took some time to think about that. What am I offering to my customers? How am I going to position myself? Why would they hire me? Like, just thinking through all of those questions. What's my value proposition? Like, what am I bringing to the table? And putting a story behind it. So I took some time to think about that. And then I reached out to my network and let everybody know, hey, this is what I'm doing. I'm going out on my own. And just looked for support from my network through referrals. And I through my referral network, I got a few clients. And so that's how I got started.
That's great. So tell us about your core services at Safrela. What's your main focus, and really what changes have you seen in the last few years?
So my main focus so I focus on users. So I help companies think about how to onboard users and then how to retain them through training. So what that means is, once they sign up, for example, they have now signed up to use the product, but how do you ensure that they're actually using it? So what kind of training support are you giving them? Whether it's through onboarding, are you offering them courses? Are you how are you engaging with them within the application or within the device? So that's one piece of it. And then the other piece is the team. So I help the company with their customer service team, with their sales team, thinking about how to train them to make sure they have the resources that they need to support their customer, and also help them provide the same message, but at the same time, give them the tools, because they don't have the time to, create the training. It's much easier for them and their time, instead of them spending 2 hours, let's say, with one customer, if they can just say, hey, watch this course, or watch this video, or go through this, go to a support center. It alleviates a lot of the burden for them, and especially in the current market and the current climate, when budgets are really tight. You want to make sure that your product is self-sufficient in supporting the customer, and then also your team has the tools, and that it's not very resource intensive. So that's what I do. So I help the companies with that.
Right. Can you give us an example of maybe one challenging project? And
so one challenging project recently was, I worked with a telehealth company, a client of mine. They have a wonderful product, and they're trying to onboard physicians, actually. And they had sort of pieces of an onboarding program, but as they were onboarding physicians, there was a huge drop off. It was taking a long time. And so the physicians were not able to support the patients looking for support with their mental health. And so what I did, I went in, I really worked with the leadership team to understand what their goals are. What are they trying to achieve? I spoke to a lot of the physicians and understanding some of the challenges that they had with the onboarding and identifying the gaps. And then based on that, I built a whole training curriculum for them, like a training plan on, anything from when they first sign up or when they join the company, what are the expectations? How is that training being rolled out to them? What are the tools that are being used? What are the tools that the physicians are comfortable using? Taking all of those factors into consideration. And then really building out the program, bringing all the teams together. So the physicians, the behavioral health team, the leadership team, the nurses, and speaking to all of them and ensuring that they all understand what the program looks like, and working with them to, build it out. And then once we did that, I created all the content that was missing. And then we rolled it out. And every time when I do any project, metrics are a huge part of it. So we evaluated the metrics through assessments, feedback to see how the new physicians and the nurses, what their feedback is on the program. And then we iterated and then made improvements, and they're still using it today.
Wow, that's impressive. That's hard to
Let
do.
me clarify a couple of things. I want to just understand.
Okay.
So your product is really not a product, it's more a product for various companies that have a product to roll it out, to help them either train their staff or train their users. I mean, so you basically dive into whatever project you're handed. Is that accurate?
Yeah. So what I offer is sort of basically strategy and implementation. So the company has a product. So I'll come in and work with them to develop the training strategy on how to solve the challenges that they're having, but whether it's onboarding, team training, like depending on the training challenge. So I'll work on the strategy, and then I'll also create the implementation plan, and then I'll help them execute it as well. So that includes all the collateral and the content that they need to make sure that by the end of our working relationship, that they have a successful accomplished all the goals.
I have a startup company that I'm going to put in touch with you.
Oh, okay.
They're really right at that. They have a great product, great infrastructure, great everything, but it's that one last step. And that's brilliant. I think that's very helpful. Mm-hmm. You dive in and you either produce it or you don't. I mean, that's really the key.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And Medtronics, I don't know if Carl knows this. They dealt with ophthalmology product.
Oh,
Did you know that?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I didn't. Yeah. Because I worked mostly with their diabetes. I've worked I've interacted with the neuro division, and then also the CRDM, which is
they had a pretty successful ophthalmology product, ECP.
Okay.
Yeah, for glaucoma.
Okay.
Yeah. My surgery center, ENT, also.
ECP was big.
Yeah, talks with Medtronics. But so how long do you typically have a relationship with these companies?
Years, actually.
Wow.
So I've been very fortunate that the relationships that I have with all of my clients are long relationships. So anywhere from a year to, I established Safrela 3 years ago, and most of them have lasted anywhere from 1 year to 3 years. And so it's an ongoing relationship. The way I approach it is we tackle one problem, let's say and then there's always something else that comes up. And so what I like to do, and the approach that I have, is I'm not just a consultant that comes in, just does my work, give the strategy, and then I leave. That's not how I approach things. I really come in with a people first approach. I really like to work with the founders and the leadership team to understand what they're trying to accomplish. And then my approach is becoming a partner, because to me, they're providing a product or a service that's going to help patients. And so at the end result, their success is a win for me as well, because that's essentially what I'm trying to accomplish. So I really like to partner with them and become part of the team. And so I really interact with all the members of the team. And in that process, it ends up being a long-term relationship.
It's very interesting because, we're different, we're physicians, we have our medical practices. And I kind of think of, hey, why can't you do this? Why can't these companies do it in-house? But obviously you bring something to the table that is either cost prohibitive for them, or they don't have the expertise or the experience. It's actually a great idea. I would think that at some point, some of these companies try to bring you in-house, correct?
Yeah, yeah. And that's something that I have, they've asked me to come on board, but I'm just at this time in sort of in my
Right,
life and in my career, it's not something that I'm interested.
right.
And sort of what I offer too is when a company gets big, and big, I mean like 500 employees and on, they then have the resources to hire a full team because you're
Yeah,
growing. You hire an L&D, an instructional designer. And so the companies that I'm working with are, to your point, John, are where they don't have the resources yet to hire a full team. And so when I come in, is they let me take it off your plate. Let me, manage the project. Let me be your training department, and I'll handle the projects for you. And so it helps them. And then obviously from a cost perspective, it's helping them because they don't have to hire someone full time and all of these other issues, not issues, but other factors that they have to, I would say, think about.
yeah, no, I
So,
think it's great. Great
so
idea.
so how do you get paid? And I mean, do they give you equity or at times or?
I have a rate, so I just ask, it's either project based. So usually what I do is I scope out the project at the beginning. I do an estimated number of hours, and then based on that, we decide on a project sort of rate. But if it's an ongoing relationship, then we kind of leave it open. And I set sort of weekly goals with them or monthly goals, and then we work on based on the number of hours that I work. And so it's pretty, it depends on the company. Like every company is different and their situation is different. So I like to work with them to make sure that we're sort of partnering in what makes sense for them and also for me.
That's great. That's great. So Mansi, so tell me, what are the goals for Safrela over the next 5 years? Where do you see yourself, and how do you plan to get there?
So for the next 5 years, I would say is certainly grow my business, work with more clients. So that's sort of for my company. And then for myself professionally, I'm really trying to work towards becoming sort of the product education leader. And so what I'd like to do is work towards becoming an advisor, getting involved with more VC firms as an advisor. And so that's sort of my goal professionally. So I'm trying to work towards that.
That's fair enough. So
Yeah.
what questions or concerns do you hear from your clients that this audience might relate to?
So the two main questions that I always get is, well, when do I start training? I'm still in product development. I'm still working out a product. We're still a year out, let's say, or 6 months out. And well, why do I need training right now? And so to that, I always say so training is just a tool to figure out how your user is going to use the product. And so getting someone like me training involved early is beneficial because like I said, I partner with the company. I can really help with the product development process in the sense that I look at the product and think about, okay, how are we going to train users on this? And so if there are any issues that come up, and this has happened with prior clients, we can solve them early on. And that can be anything from like the use or workflows. So those are always uncovered during the training process. It's much easier to train on a product that's working and has a strong workflow than to use training as like a fix later on. So I always say earlier the better. And there have been times, because I'm an engineer and I did take, because I did computer engineering and biomedical, I can wear my programming hat and I can wear my, design hat. And so that's something that as part of training, I'm also bringing those skills to the table. And so I can find the bugs in the program or, just like product use and saying, well, this doesn't really work, this type of product, or like this, button here doesn't work. So things like that I can help with. The other objection that I get is, cost is, well, why do we need training right now? Because it is it's an investment. It's an investment to create all of those, the content. And so what I like to say is that, yes, it is a cost now, but it is a long-term investment, because if you have a strong training program before you bring on customers, those customers, if they have a positive experience, will then become your champions. And they will be the ones going out and talking to everybody and telling them, oh, I just use this product. It's great. And especially when if it's a new product on the market, you really want those champions to speak for you. And a positive training, a positive onboarding can really impact that. And so bringing training in early really helps with that.
Yeah. And yeah, I could just tell you that with Call Doctor, that was my EMTALA physician scheduling program, the hospital-based physician scheduling program. Training was really important to get the physicians on board. And we had some real reluctant physicians that were toxic. It was a small group. They were sidelined, and medical staff and administration, just said, look, either you're on board or you're out. But the training got some champions, and then those voices were overshadowed by the champions. And then it spread throughout the hospital and then the community. And that's how, folks really, hospital staff and the network community really enjoyed finding out what specialty was on call that day, and then networking that so that patients got faster response times from the on-call doc. But really interesting. So how can our viewers, our audience, how can they learn about Safrela or contact you for consulting services?
So I have a website. It's safrela.com. So SAFRELA.com. So they can reach out to me from that. And also on LinkedIn. I'm always open to connecting with people and networking, and even just meeting others, other physicians, even other consultants. So they can reach me on that as well. Great.
John, anything come to mind?
How'd you come up with the name Safrela?
Oh, so Safrela is actually Safaya, which is my maiden name. And then Reina and Leela are my kids. And so it's a combination of all three of us. My husband got slighted.
It's okay. He's
out of the picture. So it's
husbands are used to that. Husbands are used to.
So yeah, it's the three of our combinations, because I wanted to pay homage to my maiden name as well.
Yeah, sure.
Great. Well, fantastic. Listen, Manasi, great having you here. And I think our audience is really going to enjoy this recording, and thank you again. So we will see you guys on the next one.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks.